This is a free audiobook created by DadsUni.
Congratulations on becoming a dad. We believe that every man has the potential within them to become a wonderful father to his children. This audiobook has been provided to encourage young fathers, especially those who may not have had great role models to follow in life. We hope you find these simple teachings to be practical and informative. Remember to check out our other free audiobooks at DadsUni YouTube.
Fathers making fathers.
Sometimes in life, it's good to pull back a bit and look at the wider view. Like using a wide-angle lens on a camera, it allows you the opportunity to see things that you might miss ordinarily because of your proximity. Understanding how God sees our role as fathers today requires us to look from a historical perspective at how God dealt with mankind from creation.
Scripture reference.
Genesis chapter 1 verse 26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." God has always had a parenting plan. It began in the Garden of Eden and will continue throughout all eternity. When God formed Adam from the dust and breathed life into him, he created him with an inbuilt ability to have children. This, of course, was designed to be through intimacy with his wife Eve. God, our Heavenly Father, created Adam, the first earthly father, with the ability to have sons who would grow and then become fathers in their time. A natural cycle was begun in Eden that we are now part of, and which will continue. Unfortunately, in our modern society, we see that not every man who fathers children biologically actually takes up his responsibility and role as a father to raise his children in the right way, and sometimes not at all. Providing the seed for children without taking responsibility for the child that you have created would, in previous generations, have been shameful and dishonorable, but is almost commonplace today. Whether we are raising boys or raising girls, doing our best as single parents or co-parenting, we as fathers need to be present in our children's lives. Many men honestly desire to do the right thing and raise their children, but are hindered or even prevented by divorce or separation from their spouses. It is also very apparent that many men find themselves in extremely difficult situations when the tremendous love they feel for their children is restricted from flowing freely. Men have a God-given ability and drive to create the next generation, but without the guidance and wisdom of our Heavenly Father found in the Bible, I ask the question, what will the next generation be like?
Scripture reference.
Genesis chapter 3 verses 4 to 7. Then the serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. God created Adam in God's own image, but after Adam and Eve fell into sin and left the Garden of Eden, the Bible reveals that Adam had children in Adam's own image. It was a fallen image and a poor reflection of God's original creation. Our children, like us, are born with a fallen nature and a potential for both great good and terrible evil. How important then is it for us as fathers to guide them on the right course in life so that their lives do not become shipwrecks on the rocky shores? Even the best hopes of fathers can be lost if they are not provided with the right resources and wisdom to guide their children. The wisdom of God that is found in the teachings of the Bible has been proven over many generations, and I, like many men over the centuries, have found in it a wonderful strength and comfort through both difficult times and good ones. Have you ever played Chinese Whispers? It's a game where you line up about 10 people in a row and whisper a message in the ear of the first person and ask them to pass it on, likewise to the second, and so on. By the time the message reaches the 10th person, it is often very funny to see how the original message has been changed. This concept shows that it is very possible to lose some or even much of a message throughout the process of time. The teachings that we as fathers pass on to our children, they must then pass on to their own children, who will also pass on to their own children. How important is it then to have a written record such as the Bible, so those sound fathering principles can be confidently passed on to each successive generation, and to also have the author of those words watching over us and ready to help in times of need.
What did your father teach you?
Throughout life, we receive information and learn from many different areas, and some of the most influential areas are our relationships. As a child, often the most influential relationships we have are with our parents, and especially our father. Normally, in his role as the head of the home, we look to him as the leader and mentor more than anyone else. It is from our father that we as men learn many of the attitudes and values of life, and these greatly influence who and what we become in our own lives as men. We often use our father's life example as our parenting guide, and his parenting methods as our blueprint for fatherhood. However, it is important to realize that for several generations, the skills required for successful fatherhood have been on the decline within our society. I have written about this previously in the teaching called, Why Do We Need DadsUni? We may need initially to decide whether we want to model our parenting role upon the example of our own father or another male figure within our lives. If you have had a great father and dear friend, or even a good father who tried hard, you should be able to glean at least some positive points from their fathering example. However, there are many men in our society today who either had no father figure at all, or one who lacked even the most basic skills, and in those cases, you may want to look for another male figure to model fathering from.
What did your father teach you?
If your father was loving and kind, supportive and encouraging, then I would dare to guess that you share many of those traits in your own character today. However, if your father was emotionally cold toward you or violent, you may unfortunately still carry those negative influences within your life, and find it difficult to connect emotionally with your kids. It is from our fathers that we as men learn many of the concepts that we use in daily life. Concepts such as a healthy work ethic, showing respect for authority, protecting and honoring females as the weaker sex, standing up for what is right, helping those in need, taking care of your mates, and a fair go for all. I see the lack of good role models in our society as both a cause and effect of generations of decline in fathering skills. But it is also true that even the best dad will still have faults and failures, and we as men will need to be very discerning as to what to glean and what to leave behind from their example. There is, however, hope for us all as men and fathers, and an example available for us to model that is without fault or mistakes. Jesus came to show us that we all as men have access to our Heavenly Father, and that it is from Him that we need to learn the most important life lessons. I have found that the insights and understanding that I glean from my daily Bible reading are a light in a dark place, and both inspire and comfort me in my fathering role.
The changing roles of manhood.
Most living things that grow begin in what is often described as a seed form, usually in a smaller and less developed form than that which they will mature into. It's the same way with men. From the moment of conception, we begin a process of transformation that continues throughout our entire life as we mature physically, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually.
Constant transitioning throughout life.
Throughout this process, we as men also take on a series of ever-changing roles. It is sometimes described as having to wear many different hats as we continue upon our life's journey. What follows is a list identifying some of the major roles we transition through in life as men, and what we learn through them.
The role of the son.
We all start off wearing the hat of being a son. It is in this role that we begin to learn about the importance of respect and responsibility, as we gain an understanding of the role that our father plays within the family. Father-son relationships ultimately create the next generation of father-son relationships. It is, therefore, an important time of learning in the life of every son.
The role of a friend.
Throughout life, we often make many friendships, and understanding what being a friend entails is important if we are to ultimately maintain those relationships long-term. It is as we wear the hat of being a friend that we learn many lessons about loyalty.
The role of the boyfriend.
When we finally make the connection with the girl who will become our future wife, we begin to learn many new life lessons. Some of the more important lessons we learn as we wear the hat of being a boyfriend are about emotional sensitivity and treating our girlfriend with the honor she deserves as our future wife. We also begin to realize that for a relationship to truly work, we must continue to work on ourselves as a man in the area of selflessness.
The role of the husband.
After we are married, our opportunity and the need to change ourselves is magnified as we begin the lifelong process of becoming one married couple rather than two single individuals. It is within the blessed sanctity of marriage, as we wear the hat of being a husband, that we learn much about the character trait of faithfulness. It is in this role, especially, that we need to learn how to lay down our own desires and understand the importance of living a life of service. As heads of the home, we have much to learn if we are to become effective in our leadership roles.
The role of the provider.
Traditionally, most men wear the hat of being the principal provider for the marriage, although in more recent times this is no longer universally accepted. Wisdom and practicality should be used as the couple assess everyone's earning capacity and choose what is right for their own situation. It is often advantageous for both to work to help them become financially secure as a couple, especially in the early stages of marriage, before the arrival of any children.
The role of the father.
Certainly, wearing the hat of being a father is one of the most challenging but also most fulfilling aspects of a man's life. From the moment our child is born, we will carry the responsibilities of fatherhood, as we lay down our own life for our family. It is in this role that we must attempt to master being an example to our children 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and although none of us do it perfectly, we should continue to strive toward this goal. It is as a father that we learn about the incredible power of encouragement in the life of a child, and that our words can either hurt or heal. We also learn the value of consistency in discipline and our need for discernment in our relationship with our children and their peer groups. Additionally, as a father, one of our primary roles is that of protector of the family and especially the well-being of our children.
The role of the coach.
As our children grow, we may have opportunities to wear the hat of being a coach to them and to pass on the skills and experience that we have learned in a sport or hobby. There is a great deal of satisfaction in watching your child pick up a skill you have taught them and reproduce it well on the playing field. Our role of encouraging them as a coach in their life often has a major influence in assisting the development of a long-term bond between you that you can enjoy for years to come.
The role of guide and counselor.
As we watch our children grow and stand with them through the many challenges that they will face, we can offer both guidance and counsel to help them navigate through life's obstacles. As we wear the hat of being a guide to our children, we can offer understanding and direction in specific situations to assist them. As we wear the hat of being a counselor, we can assist their self-development into maturity. By not doing everything for them, and sometimes allowing them to learn from their own mistakes along the way, they learn to use reason to understand the consequences of their actions.
The role of the mentor.
Later in life, when our children have grown up and we have achieved credibility as guides and counselors, we can begin to wear the hat of being a mentor. As an adult, they should now be making their own decisions, but when they are facing things beyond their knowledge and experience, they can still come to you for advice on important matters. The role of a mentor is that of a person with credibility, experience, and wisdom that can assist another person through a respectful relationship as peers. It is because of the natural evolution of the relationship over time that the father-mentor is no longer seen as an authority figure in their life that needs to be obeyed, but rather a friend to be looked to in times of need. It is helpful to realize that as men, we will continue to grow into the roles of manhood along the way, even as our children also grow. Although none of us have all the answers to the questions of life for our children when they are born, we can confidently expect that our wisdom and understanding will continue to develop through life's experiences, and we will be able to be there for them with encouragement and wisdom as their needs arise in the future.
Modern fathering styles.
As we grow into our role as a father, whether we are raising sons or raising daughters, we will eventually develop our own parenting style. Practically put, this is the way we operate as a father and can often be influenced by the male role models we have previously had in life. You may find yourself repeating something that your dad said to you as a child, and this may or may not be a good thing, depending upon their fathering style.
Our parenting style often reflects the way we ourselves were raised.
We often unwittingly take on the attitudes and mannerisms of our fathers, although we are not bound to stick with those fathering styles if we do not find them beneficial to our own family.
What is your style of being a father?
Following is a simplified list of some, but not all, of the most typical fathering styles adopted in modern times. Each of these styles of fathering brings with it a set of consequences that will either improve or trouble your future relationship with your children.
The absent dad.
The absent dad is characterized as the man who has fathered a child, but takes little or no part in the child's life. This may or may not be his desire, as sometimes relationship breakdowns result in the father being isolated from his child for no fault of his own.
The ask mom dad.
The ask mom dad is the father who, although present in the body, has yielded much of the daily decision-making and disciplining of the children to his wife. He is often characterized as the man who is caught up with so many external things outside the family unit that he has nothing left mentally or emotionally for them.
The dictator dad.
The dictator dad is the father who runs the home like a prisoner of war camp and has the kids jumping incessantly through fear of punishment. This style of fathering is often characterized by shouting and threatening dire circumstances if directions are not followed immediately.
The pushover dad.
The pushover dad is the father that is so soft emotionally that his children can twist him around their little fingers and get everything they want by merely batting their eyelids and saying, "Please, Dad."
The involved dad.
The involved dad is the father who has grasped the importance of taking up his role as head of the home to serve his family through leadership and self-sacrifice. He ensures that he is involved in as many areas of his child's life as possible, taking an interest, encouraging, and financing his child's development. He is also responsible for the loving application of discipline within the home, and one of his greatest roles is to lead by example. Many men can see at least some elements of their own fathering styles listed in those methods we have included above, or you may not see your personal parenting style at all. This particular teaching aims to help dads identify their current fathering method and decide whether they wish to maintain it or try to improve certain areas that aren't really helping their families. How we as fathers are seen by our children is important, for not only do we shape young lives into adulthood, but the relationship we have with them today will affect the relationship they will want to have with us in the future.
Protectors of innocence.
From the moment you transition from being a dad-to-be to holding your newborn child in your arms, you realize that your life has just changed dramatically. This beautiful baby, your child, has come forth from the union of yourself and your wife, and millions of new possibilities are opening in front of your eyes. Although your child carries many of the genetic traits of both your wife and yourself, it is also incredibly unique. The child has its own distinctive fingerprints, different from every other person who has ever lived. They have their own personality, natural gifts and abilities, and dreams and hopes, but now all we see is a tiny human being struggling to become acquainted with this strange new world it has just arrived into. As new fathers, we have a wonderful opportunity to reevaluate our own lives and assess those areas that remain important to us. Priorities change in our hearts when we perceive the value of this precious life we have been given to look after. It is important to realize that even though the challenges of being a father are sometimes difficult, the benefits we will receive are amazing. Fatherhood is not for cowards, but billions of men have done it before you, and you are well able to become a great dad. There are several main roles you will probably step into as a new father, including provider, teacher, and friend. However, one of the most important roles is that of protector. Being a protector of our families is one of the most natural roles we as men fall into. It seems to be hardwired into our manhood. Keeping our families safe from the many dangers that we as men already know are in the world is a role that requires diligence and discernment.
As a new father, what would you want to protect your child from?
Physical danger, sickness or disease, bad influences, wrong relationships. Sadly to say, many influences in the world would take advantage of a young innocent life and twist its beauty and uniqueness into something to be regretted. The best way to protect our children's lives is to build a stronghold of wisdom around them so that even as they grow up and become more independent, the life lessons that their father taught them will stay with them. Sharing life lessons and teaching our children is not a scheduled event each week. It happens daily, moment by moment, as we impart our own lives and values to them through our example.
How then should we live as fathers?
There are many practical things that we can do to influence the direction in life that our children take. If you don't want to see your child smoking cigarettes, then you as their example shouldn't smoke. Do you want your child to live a healthy and active life? Then you as their example should do the same. A father is a shining light to a child, an example to be followed, and a life to emulate. Decide today to be the best example to your children that you can be, and in doing so, you will go a long way toward fulfilling your role as a protector of innocence.
The choices of a father.
The future that we face tomorrow as a man and father is determined to a large extent today. Our individual decisions and lifestyle choices influence the way that society is heading, for we are relaying the foundations of society to every new generation. Therefore, we as fathers must look closely at what we do or fail to do in this life, for we hold the future of the coming generations in our hands.
Becoming a father.
Becoming a father brings many changes into our lives as men, just as becoming a husband brought changes into our lives when we were single men. There is the responsibility that comes with relationships of any kind, and if we handle those responsibilities well, our relationship has the best chance of prospering. If we treat our wife with love and respect, we have a far greater chance of staying married than if we are uncaring or abusive towards her. If we build a loving and caring relationship with our children from the moment of their birth, then there is a far greater chance that they will want to continue that relationship with us when we are old.
The foundation of any building must be strong if it is to remain standing over the test of time.
When a building of any size is constructed, what is most important initially is the laying of a strong and stable foundation. So it is with building a family. There are many things that we can do as a father, or fail to do, that will either strengthen or weaken the foundations of our family. Every society is built up of individual families. They are the building blocks used in its construction. When individual families are strong, then society is strong. When individual families fail, then society also begins to fail. Throughout ancient history, we see the rise and fall of many influential societies and cultures, whether it be Greek or Roman, Babylonian or Assyrian. Each of these cultures had a time of influence on the world stage and became the dominant superpowers of their time. But the influence of these superpowers waned and was eventually replaced by another, often because of the mistakes made by those who carried the responsibility to decide the future of that society.
Isaac Newton's third law.
Famous English mathematician, Isaac Newton's third law states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, or in other words, there are consequences for everything we do in life, either good or bad. Good decisions lead to good consequences, bad decisions lead to bad consequences. Good parenting decisions are most often made by those who have taken the time to consider the path they want to lead their children along in life. Therefore, we as fathers need to ensure to the best of our ability that we make well-informed and well-considered decisions to ensure that the future of our family is to be successful.
The choices of a father.
Each day we as fathers make choices that determine the direction that our family is going, and when enough families are heading in the same direction, then society is too. The question I ask is this: will the coming generations thank you for the decisions you are making today? Or will they regret those decisions that ultimately prove to be short-sighted and resulted in destruction rather than a blessing? Choose well.
A life of honor.
I think one of the most beneficial ways for us as men to improve the way we feel about ourselves is to live a life of honor. The word honor is rarely used in modern speech and is understood even less in our society.
Self-respect comes when we live the way we know we should.
To live a life of honor, we as men must live by a code or belief in something greater than ourselves, something worth living for, or even dying for. Living a life of honor means living a life of integrity and being a man of your word, even in the face of adversity. Standing up for those values you believe in doesn't always make you a lot of friends immediately, but what it does earn you is respect. When other men look at you, they may not fully understand why you live this way, but deep inside themselves they often wish they had the strength and belief to live as you do. Being a man of honor goes a long way toward developing healthy self-respect, and often adds meaning and a sense of fulfillment to our lives. In the books of ancient times, we see the knights in shining armor fighting off the dragon and saving the fair maiden in distress, and we think that's heroic. We see Sir Walter Raleigh throwing down his cloak so that Queen Elizabeth didn't have to get her shoes dirty while crossing over a puddle of water, and we think that's chivalry. We see the Christians of the early church worshiping God in song as they were preparing to be martyred by being fed to the lions in the Roman Colosseum, and we think that's real faith. As men, we have an inherent desire to be a protector and defender of those weaker than ourselves, and it is often this compulsion that causes us to perform great acts of bravery. This desire stems from a deep place within ourselves where our core values exist, and reveals the true way that we see our world and how we believe the world should be. Living by these core values, whether it be through acts of heroism, acts of chivalry, or demonstrations of incredible faith, enables us as men to live a life of honor. Living a life of honor can be something as little as standing up on a bus and giving your seat to a woman, or taking back the excess money to the store owner when you were undercharged for a purchase. Living a life of honor may mean telling the truth, even though you know that you will suffer for it. Living a life of honor may mean defending someone who is being bullied, or rescuing a child's cat that is stuck up a tree. Honor is that indefinable something that rises within a man when they see injustice in the world and know that it is up to them to change it. Men of honor lead the way in the world. They shine as lights in a dark place and illuminate the path we are all called to walk upon. They are men that are known in their region as someone who can be trusted, and when the going gets tough, they are the ones everyone turns to for help or advice. We all can influence our world for the better, and that opportunity begins with living a life of honor. Fathers, by their example, have a great influence on the future direction that their children will choose in life. One of the best parenting decisions we can make is to live a life of honor. The Ministry of DadsUni. DadsUni is an online ministry based in Australia and is focused on providing simple biblical teaching to assist young men in growing families God's way. All DadsUni resources are provided free of charge, and we encourage those who enjoy our teachings to share them freely among family and friends. DadsUni can be found online in the following locations: Facebook, DadsUni; Instagram, DadsUni; YouTube, DadsUni; website, dadsuni.com. We hope you enjoyed this audiobook and will visit DadsUni online regularly to see our latest blogs and updates. We would also like to thank the photographer for our wonderful cover photo. Photo by Sylvia Basso on Unsplash.